So we're starting the second parak. These are people going to Golos because they killed some killed people inadvertently, by mistake, by accident. You were applying some pitch to your roof, and the tool fell on somebody below, and killed him. If you were pulling up a barrel, a bucket from a well, and fell, somebody killed him. You're going down on a ladder, and fell on him, and it fell out, and you fell on him, and you killed him. How raise the goal, you're going to go. But if you were pulling, that's if you're extending the two plasterers tools out for you. If you're pulling it into you, then the sorry, was not where you're pulling up before. I was lowering it. If you're pulling up the chavis, the bucket, and the rope snapped, and it fell upon him and killed him. You were going up on the ladder, and it fell on him and killed him. So you don't go to Golus. This is a general principle. Anything which is on the way down, you're going to Golus. If it's not on the way down, ain't no goal, you don't go into Golus. So it has specifically going down and not coming up. Coming up is more korov l'ones, so therefore there is no Golus in that case. Okay, so the Gemara says, Ravina Poter, Achiyafil Kol Achedo. The Rabbi Yehuda exempts you until you drop the entire rope. So you're lowering the bucket, and you have to drop the rope in order to be chayev. But if the rope snapped on the way down, even on the way down, you're an ones and you don't get the golos. So a snapping rope is considered to be, as they say in the insurance industry, an act of God, something which you could not take proper precaution. So therefore, assuming that the rope you checked ahead of time and you made sure it was a solid rope, but therefore if it snaps on the way down, you're potter. If it spools out of your hand, then you're chayav goes. But snaps, then you're potter goes. Rabbi Shimon poter. Rabbi Shimon exempts ad sheyatir es kol melchotzin. Let's see the Pnei Moshe on this. Melchot over here, melchotzin gam ken klihu. So I started talking about zatit. It's also a plasterer's tool used to smooth plaster. Ruke magila, and this is it's like the magila in our Mishnah, the roller. Kinam berakam the way. Cotton, like it says the way cotton. Osin ma'akeh gag v'kulei. Shoving as the stocking, you smooth out the cracks, magila osam, and you roll them out. The magila biyad regel with the magila, either with your hand or your foot. Avalo b'melchatzayim, but now it's melchatzayim. What's that? It's like an artificial foot. The things in the Bible too. Which you push into the roof, in order to close up the gaps, cracks. That's also doing cholamoy because it's more of a craftsman's work than just rolling your roller with the plaster on the roof. So the general principle is that on cholamoy, something which is a ma'aseh hegel, something which anybody can do, is mutter. Something which only a few people can do, only people are trained professionals, that's also to do on Chol Hamoed. Okay, it's a story, I don't know if it's true or not true, that Rabbi Heinemann from Baltimore learned how to be an auto mechanic. The way the story goes, he lived on the ground floor in Yeshiva Lane in Ner Yisrael in Baltimore, and he drove a car into his living room and took it apart and put it back together again. And at the end of this process, according to the legend, I don't know if it's true, he said that you're allowed to take your car to a mechanic on Chol Hamoed, because he determined that it's Ma'aseh Hegel and not Ma'aseh Uman. That a car mechanic is not a craftsman. As long as somebody knows what they're doing, they don't have to have a special craft or special art in order to get it done. Just to give any Tom, Dick, or Harry the tools, and he can get the job done. So therefore, a paskin you're allowed to give your car to a mechanic during Chol Hamoed. So the Melchotzin, as opposed to Magila, is obviously more of a Maisa Uman. Somehow it's more of a craft, of a skill is involved. So Rabbi Shimon says that Ad Shiyatir es kol the Melchotzin. You have to let the entire foot, artificial foot, go. I'm not sure exactly how it worked, but that's what you have to do in order to be chayav golus. So the Gemara says, "Maid Omar." Now here, there's a commentary which is not normally printed on the page itself. In most Masechtas in Yerushalmi where it appears. In Makkos, for some reason, it's only printed in the back. It's called the Korban Eidah. It was written more or less the same time as the Bnei Moshe, and it's of equal stature. They're kind of both like the Rashis on Talmud Yerushalmi, even though they're both written in the 18th century. And so there he changed the Girsa to between the Korban Eidah from my Damar Rabbi Shimon b'sikas chemo, my Damar Rabbi Yehuda b'shmita samachad sign to my Damar Rabbi Yehuda b'sikas chemo, my Damar Rabbi Shimon b'shmita samachad. In other words, what Gemara is saying is that they're both, even though one is Rabbi Yehuda and one is Rabbi Shimon, they're both the same svara. They're both saying that that in order to be considered not ones, has to be somehow you drop the whole thing. You drop the whole bucket. You drop the whole melchat sign. If if it's something snapped, and that's why it fell, or something else went awry, so then you said ones and you are not chayav golus. Okay, Rabbi Yirmiyah boy kun Rabbi Avo. Rabbi Yirmiyah asked for Rabbi Avo over here. Okay, you were doing the magila outwards. And as you were going outwards, you went over the side of the roof, and Reuven stuck up his head, and you decapitated him. Okay, so I don't think it's in the Bible in this case. So they have you're plastering the roof. You're using this instrument, this roller, and you roll it out, and you kill somebody, right? Not necessarily decapitate him. It says v'ticholo. You bashed him in the head. So Amar lehi aliyah hiyarida. So he said this is aliyah, this is yarida. Now this is a very very cryptic Gemara. What does he mean? Hi aliyah yarida. The Pashup shot seems to be that he means that there's no aliyah yarida. Right, you're going out and you're hitting the guy. There's no aliyah yarida. Aliyah yarida is only on the roof, not something outside the roof. But there's an interesting shayat Torah Sitzra on this, which I want to bring up and show you. Here it is here. Okay. So what he says here is Itichalo Perush Huzak Velo Ne'arag. So he says, no, it's not killed in this case. You damaged the guy. The case we just brought down is the right before the Mishnah, I'll show you, right before the Mishnah over here. Rabbi Yirmiyah, Welcome, Rabbi Avoya, Maga Magila, B'derech Chalichvasa, Botzi Asura, Rosho, V'ticholo, Amla Yir Aliyah Yirida. So the Pashup shot is that you killed him. And the question is there a derech aliyah, derech yirida in this lateral motion, right? You're going straight out. So there's no aliyah and yirida. That's the Pashup shot. But the Shayat Yisrael does not learn that way. What the Shayat Yisrael learns is that you didn't kill him. Perush v'uzak v'lo ne'arag. Im chayiv chamisha dvarim k'shogeg. Are you chayiv in the 5 payments that you make when you damage somebody, like any other shogeg, right? When you damage somebody, even unintentionally, you have to pay nezek, tsar, ribu, sheves, boshes, for all the payments which are enumerated in this week's Parashah Shpatim, honest, or if you honest. Machash says, Rosho. What can I do? He stuck out his head. And as I was ready, pushing my tool out, he stuck out his head. It's not my fault. Shogeg is when there's something there, and I know it's there, but an accident happens. But here, is it considered to be that a shogeg? Or since the head was not there when I started plastering, so therefore it's onus, which is a very interesting explanation. And it's the diuk is because it says he ticholo. It doesn't say he killed him. It just says he hit him. But the name Moshe is not like that. The name Moshe says like this. Let's see if name Moshe. He says, not the way I said it before. The way I want to conventionally say, it doesn't matter if Aliyah Yerida, right? The matter of Aliyah Yerida, because it's a lateral motion, right? You're not going vis-a-vis the person on the side of the roof. So it's a lateral motion, and therefore it doesn't matter. It's Aliyah Yerida. But the Bnei Moshe doesn't learn that way. So let's see inside again. Magila derech halichos, klamar. When you're taking it towards yourself, not when you're going out. Because when you're going out, you're chayiv for goes. But you're bringing it into you, the roller. So somehow you're doing it slowly. I don't know the Matthias because you're on the roof and you're bringing it in on the roof. I guess there was a skylight, something like that. And somebody popped up, his head popped through the skylight, and he hit him in the head and he killed him. Mao, what is this called? Is it called that it's on the way down? Since you're plastering. Or since it's on the way in, when you're pulling it to yourself, derech aliyah hi upater. Is it derech aliyah, and therefore you're pater. So, because in the Mishnah, we said that imayam moshech magila, it's considered to be onus, right? That's like derech aliyah. But here, the guy popped up his head in the middle while I was pulling it towards me. So is that also onus? Or no, because vis-a-vis the guy who popped up his head, it's like derech yerida, right? Because I'm coming down on him. So I don't like that pshat of the name Moshe. It's a bit convoluted. So again, I want to reiterate the two possible pshatim here, which I think are possible. The pshat which I suggested myself is you're going with a magil derech halichasa as your normal way. But see, not anything dangerous. But see, alas, Rosho b'tichelo, and the guy popped up his head over the side of the roof, and you hit him. Amalehi aliyah yerida. In this case, there is no difference between aliyah and yerida. So there isn't an aliyah yerida, and therefore he goes to goes. Okay. Then the Shai Torah says, Shai Torah Eretz Yisrael says, however, that it's a question. It's not about miso altogether. It's not about you killed him. It's where you hurt him. And that's why it says he ticha. It doesn't say harago. Doesn't say he killed him. It says just you hit him. And the question is, if somebody pops his head up in the middle while I'm doing this activity, am I considered to be like a shogeg, and I'm chayav to pay all the payments which I have to pay if I'm mazik somebody else, even b'shogeg? Or do I say, no, it's honest? How am I supposed to know? Somebody's going to pop their head up. So therefore, I don't have to pay anything. According to this, I'm not sure this explains the answer, but he just he doesn't explain what the answer is. But I think the answer is that it doesn't matter. In other words, there's no such thing as onus in a case where you damage somebody, where you're on a roof and somebody could stick up his head. The fact that you weren't aware this guy stick up his head, it doesn't matter. You're involved in an intrinsically dangerous activity, and it doesn't matter whether you're going on the way down, on the way up. Instead, of course, that only matters for Golus. You always have to pay the Chamisha Dvarim. You always have to pay the 5 payments because, again, by Misa, it makes a difference. If I kill them on the way down or the way up, whether they're going to Golus or not. But by payments for Nizakin, it doesn't make a difference. And I do have to pay. And it's not an onus because I should take into account that somebody might pop up over the side at any time. Okay, so now let's go on to the next case of Gemara. Now, next case of Gemara seems quite clearly to be talking about Nezek, which is evidence for the Shaitar Soil's chat that it's talking about Nezek and not about Misa. So Rabbi Yirmi asked Rabbi Abo, you were again, you were going doing your normal plastering. And a child put his hand up. Ritzani crushed it. So what's the story and about this? Is that considered to be chayav or potter? So Amar Leis, they said, Rabbi says, Rabbi Yirmiyah, why are you bothering me? Atrachta ba? You have to be matriach me, cause me a nuisance. I already told you. Here aliyah, here rida. Makes no difference. Way up, way down, you have to pay. And here too, you have to pay. So this case over here is clearly a case where you only damaged the kid. You didn't actually kill him. So it makes sense to say that the first case was also damage. And then Rabbi Yirmi asked one case of damages, and Rabbi Avo said he's chayav. And then Rabbi Yirmi asked another case of damages, and Rabbi Avo said, I already told you he's chayav. Why are you bothering me again? But the first case was a case of death. You actually killed the guy when you hit his head. In this case, a case of payment. It's not so much similar that I think Rabbi Avo would have criticized and say, why are you asking me again? Because after all, one case is where you killed him, the other case is where you damaged him. I think the Gemara is much more smooth. If you look at both cases were cases of damage, not of death. So, but why it be different, Taka? In other words, what was everybody asking? Rabbi Avo was right. You already asked me the exact same question. What's the difference? So it could be like this. Very simple. It could be a gadol, an adult. He himself should have been careful not to raise his head to the roof. He knows to check, right? He knows to check. He should have checked ahead of time. Make sure nobody's plastering the roof. A katan doesn't have das to do so. So what about a troop? A gadol maybe you will say, a gadol maybe a gadol maybe we could say that he's potter because the guy is doing plastering because he should have checked. A katan maybe is chayav because he didn't. The katan didn't have to check. So the thing is that Rabbi Avo was annoyed at this because he said, "Listen, if I told you by a gadol that you have to pay, so kal v'chomer by katan you have to pay." It's the other way. It's a kal v'chomer because if a gadol you have to pay because he was you're negligent, you're shogeg, not an onus because you could have checked. So by katan you certainly have to pay. I'm not sure if that works out so well. Then I'm thinking, as I'm saying this, I'm thinking it's not so great because the second case with Rabbi Yirmiyah himself should have understood that it's a kal v'chomer. If the logic is that by even by a person who's an adult who sticks his head out, it's going to be ones, it's going to be chayav. Sorry. So then, in that case, he should it's be the same thing with the certainly be the same thing with the katan who didn't have das to stop himself. So there is a mara punim here. Not sure it helps. So let's try and think about it. Let's try and think about the thing that's through again. So the if so, like the Shaitar says, it's the order is difficult, like I said, because why ask about if a guy a gadol, he's chayiv to pay because it's not to be honest, even though the gadol could have checked before he stuck his head out. So by cotton, he's chayiv to pay because the cotton didn't know to check before he stuck his arm up. So let's try my approach, which I said before that the question is when you're going lateral, straight out, is there a difference between is that considered to be aliyah or yerida? And and on that vis-a-vis the person who stuck up his head. And on that he says so to him, if there is no aliyah yerida, vis-a-vis that person stuck up his head, you're chayav no matter what, right? Aliyah yerida, you have to pay, or you put to death, depending on how you learn the first case. The way I was learning, it could either be put to death or pay. No, actually, yeah, either it could be either or. So then, he asks, what about Hoshit? No, I'm still not clear about this. I'm not 100% certain, but that's what I'm saying is correct. I want to, as I'm talking, I'm not sure it's correct. Let me try it a different way. Okay, so let's try the opposite and see if that works out better. Let's say Rabbi Rabbi Kum Rabbi Avo. He was going, he was extending his hand out and plastering. Votia Las Rosho. And the other guy, somebody stuck out of his head. Viticholoni hit him. Amarle, he aliyah, yerida. I'm going with the exact opposite of like I did before. He's potter. Not until now I was learning that he aliyah yerida means he's chayav to pay. Now I think I'm going to say he's potter, right? Because it's going to work out much better, much more smooth. He's potter either from Isa, potter from pain because he's an onus. Doesn't matter whether you consider it aliyah or yerida, he's an onus. Because what am I supposed to do about this guy popping up his head? It's not my fault. His head, a moment ago, his head was not there. Now his head is there. I'm an onus. You can't be mechayiv me golos. You can't be mechayiv me to pay. So that's, he says here, Yerida is potter. Now, the word says, Rabbi Yerba, same question. And like I said before, a child doesn't know to be careful. So therefore, I might say, well, in the first case, the guy who's plastering his potter because the guy who raised his head shouldn't have raised his head. He should have checked first. And therefore, he's responsible for his own damages, being responsible for being damaged himself, and therefore the plaster doesn't have to pay. But what about this case over here? The cotton doesn't have to ask look out and to check before he raises his hand over the side of the roof. So maybe in this case, the plasterer does have to pay, because in this case, the cotton was not responsible for his action. So on that he says, because he's being such a dunnik, he aliyah yerida. In this case also, the plasterer is potter. Why is the plasterer potter in this case also? Because it's true. There is a machine on a gadol and a cotton. A gadol should take precautions. A cotton doesn't know to take precautions. But in fact, the reason why it's potter is not because the other guy should have taken precautions or not taking precautions, but because his head or his hand wasn't there when I started doing this activity. And therefore you can't be mechayiv me because there's something which came up afterwards. And I had no way of knowing this is going to happen all of a sudden and mill my plastering. So it's saying it doesn't make a difference. If it's a gadol or a katan, he aliyah, he yerida, and he's potter. Okay, so I went 180 degrees from the way I started. I started, and the reason why I can do this is because whereas he aliyah, he yerida are cryptic. It can mean he aliyah, he yerida, and he's chayev, no matter what. It can mean he aliyah, he yerida, and he's potter, no matter what. So now I'm learning potter, no matter what. And it's saying that no matter which way you look at it, he's potter, doesn't mean there's no aliyah yerida. Whether it's about killing him like the Bnei Moshe says, or in the first case, by Hoshita Loas Rosho, or talking about you just damaged him, you're part of because what are you supposed to do? He stuck out his head. Now there's a similar case in the Bavli, where, and maybe it's going to come to Yerushalmi as well, where you threw a stone and then a guy stuck up his head after you threw the stone. In that case, you're parted from Golos, because at the time you threw the stone, the guy wasn't there. So here too, it's a similar thing. At the time you started plastering, he wasn't there. So therefore, you're parted from Golos. So then the so there that's he's saying you're parted no matter what. And then the Gemara says, okay, and Rabbi Yehuda says, okay, what about the case of a child? Because there he didn't know to be careful. Rabbi Yehuda says it's no different. It's what I already told you. Because it wasn't there at the time, it's like the throwing a stone and then the guy sticks out his head, that therefore you're potter. Yaliyah, Yerida, doesn't matter what, you're potter no matter what. Okay. That's what I think the pshat is. Nishma Rabarza Mikita. Says the Gemara, the axe flew off the handle. Varagin killed. Maybe ain't a goler. Maybe says you're not goler because maybe says that in the pasuk, but it's Nashala Eitz Min Barzel. It's when Nashala Barzel Min Eitz. It's when you it's like it's the next case. Let me say that's the case in the Torah where the axe blade flew off the axe handle. Maybe disagrees. Now, in the case where the axe chopped out a piece of wood from the tree and that piece of wood flew and killed somebody. So Rabbi Omer Gola, Rabbi says that that's the case the Torah is talking about. No Shalabaz that it's talking about where you chopped a piece of wood out and the piece of wood flew. That case you Gola. Chachamim say there's no Golas in that case. Okay, so the Matam of the Rebbe. What's the logic of Rebbe? Why does he say the case is a case where the wood flew from the tree and hit him? Nerma kan Shila. It says here in the Shila, the Nerma lahalon ki yishal zeisecha. It's coming for when your olives fall off your tree. Man Neshira shenemar Neshira. Neshira means to fall off. So the Reish and Lamed, he says, are interchangeable. It's like over there where it says Nashal, it means Nashar, falls off. So to here, Afkan Neshira. Here too also means the piece of wood falls out of the tree. Okay, that's fine. That's Rebbe's svara. Matam and Rabbana. What about Rabbana? Hold that the pasuk is referring to the axe blade flying off the handle. Now, Makan Neshila, so the answer that here it says Neshila. The Kodesh Baruch Hu is going to remove these nations in Canaan, mipanecha, in front of you. Man Neshila shenemar la'alon Makkah, just like over there, it is it's the Hashem is going to hit. He's going to hit them, smite them, and get him out of the land. So to hear that so to hear it's Makkah, Makeh, I should say. And that's what Bnei Moshe explains. Afkan Makeh, B'davar shu Makeh be'etz, the thing which he's hitting the wood. B'ayna b'garzen is the axe, right? And that the axe blade comes off the piece of wood in which it is, which it's stuck in. So it's a little bit difficult. This the second, the first shot is very good, right? It says something falls off the tree. The second shot is a little bit difficult because, and that means that the something flies out of the tree as well. Second way is saying that the word nashal is going on the activity, and something which happens in the course of the activity. So the activity here is swinging the axe. The thing which is acted upon is the tree. But since the nashal refers to the activity, where Hashem is going to smite those people in the land and get them out of there. So to here, the nashal habazim means during the activity of chopping or about to chop, it flew off. Okay, so it's not the thing which was acted upon which caused the damage, but the thing which was acting, the acts which causes the damage. So that is their machlokas as to whether what the pasuk is speaking about is talking about the axe knocking someone out of the tree and that thing flying, or is it the axe blade flies up the axe handle and that's where damage is? Okay, so that brings us to the end of Halacha Beis and the end of this Amud. So I think we'll stop here for today and pick up with Halacha Gimel next time. Okay, have a good night, everybody. See you Mitzvah Shem tomorrow.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Abby.
Have a good night.
Bye.